You're listening to episode 33 of the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman.
Well, hello there and welcome to this week's podcast. Now, this is a really exciting one. I'm just going to do a little intro before we get into the main intro because I've split this one into 2 episodes. So this is my podcast I recorded with the incredible Olivia Towers. But it was such a great podcast and it's quite a long podcast. I wanted to split it in 2 so you could enjoy it twice. So this is the first one. And then not next week, but the week after, you have part 2, which again is a real belter. So stay tuned for that. But for now, I'm going to hand you over to Olivia and me. And I really want you to enjoy it. Have a good one.
So today I am with Olivia Towers at one of the most beautiful bits of Herefordshire I've ever been to. It is technically Herefordshire, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I live in the kind of Worcestershire-Shropshire border, so I feel like I've been through lots of places on the way. Now, if you don't know about Olivia, you will very, very soon. And also, I assume you've lived in a hole for a while. But so Olivia, tell us all about you and how you got to just being a rider to start with before we even start developing all the other bits that go with it.
So I have ridden since, I was riding before I could even walk. My mum is horsey and her whole side of the family is horsey. So I was plonked on a pony from a very young age. And I used to be a complete nutter with like jumping and cantering around fields. And I think it was the age of...
Was that eventing or was that just you were just...
It was not a sport.
Oh, God.
There was no sport. It was just like hooning around fields.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. And then the age, how old was I? I think I was about 12 and had a really bad accident jumping.
Okay.
Where the pony didn't go over the fence and I half went over the fence and my back landed on a plank. And then I was like, oh, it actually really hurts falling off. That like realisation when you're young that like it can hurt. So then I kind of got put off that a little bit and I started doing a little bit more dressage and because I think my personality ever since I can remember has been like a perfectionist and I really like small little details. So I really like the idea of dressage is that, you know, you can keep chipping away at it and you go in, you kind of get the feedback and then you come out and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to go and work on that.
Sure.
So yeah, I started doing dressage when I was 12 and then, yeah, when I was at school and it was that age where you're deciding whether to leave or not or what to do, I was just like, right, like this is what I want to do. And I remember like a lot of the teachers and my friends were like, you're mental leaving school at 16 because they were all going to do A-levels and then go to uni and they were like, you know, they couldn't imagine doing it as a job.
Sure.
And they also, a lot of the teachers thought that my mum was pressuring me into doing it.
Okay.
So that was quite a tricky one. And then actually, yeah, a lot of my friends' parents thought that as well.
Your poor mum.
You know what it's like though.
Absolutely.
So at 16 I started doing it professionally and I worked on a big competition yard for 2 years, which was an amazing experience, but it was such a shock to go from doing your GCSEs, being at school, to then working 6 days a week, getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Like obviously I'd been working with the horses at home, but we only had 3, and then I went on to competition yard with 20. And it was full on. But it was amazing and I had such a passion and drive for it that I was it was all worth it, if it makes sense.
Yeah.
So I did that and then I was there for 2 years and then I left to come here because my parents had moved up from Shropshire actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, in Dorrington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we were there before and they moved up here because my dad works in Cornwall, so it was a little bit closer for him. And they set up here and so I decided to go home and I was like, right, okay, I'm going to become a professional rider. I just expected to come home and then just be able to go from there and it just to kind of all fall into place. And then, yeah, I came home and I started doing it by myself with my mum's help. And it's kind of all gone from there. There's a lot more detail, but
wow,
we could be here for hours.
Gosh, so that's quite a journey already. So then you started off with quite a small group of horses that were yours. How did you grow and develop that to get to? Because obviously now we're recording this. Was it last week you won the Premier League?
Yeah.
Which is amazing. So we've got actually a really good journey from a horsey point of view there too.
It's been a really up and down thing with getting the string of horses that we have. So when I was 16, I would say we were financially in a better position. So I had more of like schoolmaster.
Okay.
That they wanted me to go and do he actually was my trainer's horse that I was going to go and do the GB teams on.
Okay.
So the thing is, when you're that age, it would have been there are people who have done it, but I hadn't have started a horse soon enough to be able to have trained it up to go and do the team. So I then had a schoolmaster. So you would think like it would be amazing having a ready-made horse, but I actually found it really hard because I hadn't produced this horse. And something about me is I've always had like a really good feel on horses, and I kind of knew that it didn't feel exactly how I wanted it to, and I just felt like I'd been plonked on. It would be like someone just learning to drive and then being like getting that Ferrari and take it around this course. You're kind of like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what's going on. So I had that, which all seemed really great from the outside, but I was actually struggling with it quite a lot. And then like all that happened, and he actually ended up going lame, and that was really tricky to deal with. So when we came home, we kind of started from scratch with the horses. And by that point, it wasn't like as financially easy for us. So what we did was we were like, right, we're going to buy them young.
Sure.
Because you can buy more talented horses younger it's affordable.
Yeah.
The problem with that is I didn't have a clue how to do young horses. Okay. So we had a lot of young horses that I just felt like not capable at all about training them, and that was really difficult. And I think that's where, again, my confidence was getting knocked, and I just felt completely out of control on them. So I was just trying my best to do like the young horse classes, because I got advised to do those and build them up, and I was like, I really was struggling. So yeah, I've kind of guessed the older ones now that I have are the first, they're the youngsters that have come through. So although like, yeah, they're doing very well, like it was a messy journey for us to get there because we were both learning together. And now I have 2 5-year-olds, 2 4-year-olds, like it's so easy for me on them. Done it, got the t-shirt. Yeah, because I'm so much more experienced. I have so many tools in my basket of knowing what to do with them. I'm a better rider, I'm more balanced, I'm more confident, I'm more happy like in myself, so I don't stress out on them as much, and they're progressing so much quicker.
But it must be, completely understand the journey being a bit of a nightmare at times, but with what you've just done, I mean the reward for all that hard work, stress and everything else is just massive, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's really interesting with Wilf because like I said, I've made so many mistakes on him. Like I always said, if Carl had him, you know, there would have been none of this, because he used to be really naughty in the arena. I was like, he wouldn't have done that, because I know that, I think that's where I found it really hard. I knew if I'd been a better rider that he would have been fine, and I think that's really hard psychologically to deal with. It's the whole like, I'm not good enough for my horse.
Yeah, no, I can completely see what you mean, but you've actually used this, haven't you?
Yeah.
Really, really well. No, but I think this is brilliant, because so many people, even people who are just leisure riders.
Yeah.
We all have these moments when we think our horses could be doing so much better.
Yeah.
We've really messed this up.
Yeah.
I think everybody would say that. But how have you used this kind of knowledge and struggle? Because this bit's really incredible. Don't get me wrong, your equestrian achievements are also incredible, but this bit's amazing.
So the mindset stuff. So what is it now? 3 years ago, I'd say. I went to the regionals. I had qualified. How many horses did I have? I just know I'd qualified for 8 individual classes. I don't know how many horses that was with. I think some were doing 2 classes.
That's still a significant amount.
Yeah.
To qualify.
So I was like, right. And I remember I put a status on Facebook. I was like, 8 classes qualified for the regionals. Like, let's do this. I was like, come on, out of 8, I'm going to get 1 to the nationals, like, surely. I was like, the ratio's there. So I went to, I think we did 2 or 3 separate regionals. And the first one I went to, it didn't go very well. But I was like, it's okay, we've got another one. And then I remember I went to Somerford Park, and it was, the middle one. And I remember it was literally, I just started to change. I was just thinking about just starting to change my mindset around. I kind of knew that I was struggling with it. And I went there, and I had the biggest meltdown in the warm-up. Like, it had happened before, but this one was really poignant. And I was in the warm-up, and my mum was like, you're in next. And I always describe it like I'd be in the warm-up, and this had happened a lot. It was like this mist had descended, and I was just in full-blown panic.
Oh, wow.
And I was like the thing is with panicking on a horse is they pick up on it. So I was getting tighter and tighter, the horse was getting tighter and tighter. And then the sad thing about when someone's nervous or worried is that it comes out in them looking like a bit of a diva, or like it's very hard to say, oh, that person's just really stressed or upset. Like people don't do that. They look at you and go, you're a brat.
Yeah.
So I was going around and my mum was like, come over here. And I was like, what? And she was like, everyone's saying like what a brat you're acting like, da da da. And that of course like hit me really hard. Then I got even more insecure and even more upset and even more stressed. So this warm up turned into like the baptism of fire. Like it was the worst thing ever. And then the steward was like, you've got to go in now. And I was just like, I don't want to. And it was awful. Anyway, I ended up going in and the test was like mediocre. It wasn't great. I made mistakes and I was just mortified. Like I came out and I remember my mum was there and Emma, who was there helping us, and they were like, it wasn't that bad. And I was just like crying. And I felt like such a failure. I felt like I'd failed my horse. I felt like I'd failed my mum. I felt embarrassed. I felt like everyone was looking at me like, you have all these incredible horses. Like, why are you acting like such a diva?
So it wasn't actually the test not going particularly well. It was actually the feelings connected to everything. God, that sounds
It was everything. I know, and I think it's like, look, it wasn't this one test, it was a build up. It had been happening all of my life. It just hit this like massive, like kind of, it hit this point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. So we came back from that show and I was down in the garden. I was just crushed. And the thing is, you can look at someone and be like, woe is me, like this poor like little rich kid that has all these amazing horses, like she just is having a breakdown because her pony won't do what she wants it to do. But the thing is, like, I knew all that. I knew I should have been more grateful. I knew I shouldn't have been this emotional about this. Like, you know, I'm blessed to the fact that I have 2 legs and I can walk and I have a roof over my head and I have water. But it just didn't stop I felt even worse for that because I felt like I wasn't using this amazing opportunity.
So you're putting even more pressure on yourself.
Yeah, which was like mounting it up to be even more. And then me and Mum had completely fallen out because I used to think it was because she would be so, she'd just think I wasn't doing well enough. But what it was really is like now looking on it in reflection, it was that she was looking at her daughter like tearing herself apart and just being so upset all the time. Like that's not fun for a mum to watch either. No. So me and Mum weren't talking. We were like really struggling. And then Laura, who's our head girl, she was kind of like in the middle of it and she's like, right, we need to all talk about this. And I was meant to be going to one more regionals and Mum was like, that's it, like we're pulling the plug, we're not going, you're not riding there, you're not competing anymore. And it was like in that moment I was like, I kind of realised that was the worst thing that could happen, is me not being able to actually compete. Like, why am I stressing out about a circle going wrong or a change going wrong? Like, look at how lucky you are to actually compete. So from that situation, and it's a very long story.
No, it's really, really good because, again, there's elements in this that everybody will be able to relate to.
Yeah.
And being able to take a step back and, as you say, you know, the worst thing for you be not competing. But when you're in the middle of it, you can't see out.
Yeah. So when that happened, it's kind of like everything fell into place. Well, it was difficult and it took ages, but everything started to kind of happen at once. I was scrolling through social media and I saw one of my friends that I'd met ranned me on a night out. Wasn't anything to do with horses. He had started being a motivational speaker and has just been making these videos, and I just saw one and I was like, I want to be like him. I was like, he's so positive, he's so like upbeat and happy. So I texted him and then I ended up having this phone call conversation with him for like 3 hours, and I was just like pouring my heart out. I was like, I want to be a positive person. I don't want to be like this, but I was like, I don't think it's possible. I was like, I don't think I can change. I was like, I've been like this all my life. I've been negative all my life. I don't know any different. And at that point, I didn't realise that you could change your mindset. I thought it was just something somebody said to someone to make them feel better. Like, oh, don't worry, you can change it. But like, you know?
Oh, wow, okay.
I never literally, like, from up and, to the age of 23, I didn't know it was possible for people to change their mindsets. I thought it was like a character.
Sure, I get you.
You know, people have character traits. I just generally thought negativity was a character trait.
Yeah.
So I was speaking to him and he was like, look, what you have to get to the bottom of is, like, what is it that you're really struggling with? Like, what is it that do you feel is at the core of it? Because you need to figure out what's at the core of you being so negative, and then you need to work on it. So I did some like soul searching, and I figured out it's because I just didn't have any self-belief. I thought like nothing of myself in every aspect of my life, so not just with the horses. I had struggled with anxiety really badly, like social anxiety, to the point where I couldn't go into like Tesco's by myself, or I couldn't go for dinner and eat out with friends because I would freak out and have to leave the restaurant. Like, and it all came from like a part of like not believing in myself and not thinking I was any good at anything. And again, it's the whole like, you've been given these amazing opportunities, like why have you not done anything with it? And again, like people have built that up in my head, but I think not even as much as that, as I built it up in my own head and I'd made it worse. So so we figured out what was wrong. It's like I didn't have any self-belief, and then I was like, well, what do I do? And he was like, you study self-belief. I was like, what? I was like, I didn't even know you could do this. So I was like, right, how do you do that? So I just went on Google and I was like,
God bless
how
Google.
to get self-belief, like bam. And just this blog came up. I didn't even know whose it was, and I just started reading it. And then it was weird. It was like it's like a bullet to a target. I was like just like gone. I'm kind of an all-in character, which is great when I'm on a positive. So what I'd been all in for the negatives, and I'd been like running with that.
I see.
And then it's like it just went all in for the positives.
But that quickly as well. I mean, that in that moment.
Quick.
Wow.
I mean, in about 5 minutes. So weird. But this is how, when I've made changes in my life, I've like struggled with it, but they have always gone super quick change over, which I think is again my character. I'm like quite an obsessive character with things. So when it's like I went from like saying watching Hollyoaks, watching TV, to I'm just going to watch this video on positivity, I'm going to read this article, and I just like shut myself in to it, which is really cool. So I just started doing all that and just started researching it, and I was really lucky that Alex, that guy I'd been talking to, he had another friend to put me in contact with, and they were just such positive people, and they just kept like, listen to this person. I remember they told me to listen to a guy called Jim Rowe, he's an old school motivational speaker, and I just remember listening to him like, I can't believe that this has been there for like a while now, free. I can go and listen to this whenever. I can go to listen to motivational people to pick me up whenever I want, and it's out there for everybody. Like, why is nobody talking? Why are we all watching Emmerdale when we could all be watching? I know that sounds really harsh.
No, but also one of the most depressing things, I think soaps are so depressing.
Like, why are we all sitting in front of the TV watching brain-numbing things when there is the most incredible stuff on social media? And that's something that I'm really passionate about still. Some people call me a bit obsessive, but I'm really passionate about.
But obviously, from that one moment, then what happened to your life from making that decision, from going from negative to positive?
Yeah.
How did your life change then? So from going from like literally having a complete meltdown, not speaking to your mum, being in a really horrible place, no self-belief, not being able to go out with friends.
Well, I'd love to say like it was a smooth sailor, but it really wasn't. I would say it's only been up until... No, I can't even say, like, the thing is with stuff like this is you never feel, you don't go from one, like, I know I said I became obsessed with it, but I still battled internally with stuff.
Sure.
In everything, I mean, my friend circle changed. People who I'd been friends with and I'd been, like, I then looked at as like, actually, you don't care about me, you're not supporting me, you're actually damaging me. I had a massive thing when it came to my love life. I'd been going out with people that, again, weren't good for me. I wasn't happy with them, but I was trying to fill this gap in my heart with going out with them, kind of distracting myself. I was looking for acceptance through that. So my friendship circle changed. My love life completely got flipped on its head. My riding was going through a massive turmoil. My parents thought I'd gone completely bonkers. Literally every single aspect of my life was then getting flipped on its head. And then the other thing as well that happened, and this is where all of this like centers around, is I started working with a guy called Theo. So I wanted to, after discovering all this, I was like, I need to tell everyone, because like I said, I was like, why does no one know this?
Sure.
So I was like, I want to take it to social media, and this is where the social media was born. And so I started working with a guy called Theo, who was actually friends with Alex, the guy who had originally helped me. And he was like, you know, get in touch with this guy called Theo. So I started talking to Theo, and he was such an influential person to me, because he kind of took on like this weird, like, it was like a father role. Yes, he helped me with my social media, but he also massively helped me with my self-development, because we had a meeting together and he said, look, if you are going to be serious about social media, he's like, you can't go on it and fake it. He's like, you need to have very strong foundations as a person, because it's not easy. Like, you are going to get targeted. You need to have like your values and why you're doing this and what it's about. So he really started to he challenged me in so many ways. Like, he's the person who challenged me about my love life, my friendships, my relationship with my dad. Like, I didn't even know I had a problem with this. He just brought this up, and I was like, he was really challenging me. And I asked him for self-development books, and he gave me one. He'd been giving me loads, and then I asked for another one, because I was like, I was going through an audiobook every 2 days.
Wow.
Like, it was mad.
You were plugging in and just...
Yeah, so I'd listen to it for hours, and then I'd be like, give me the next one. And he was like, I can't believe how quick you go through things. So I was like, I need another self-development book. He's like, okay. He's like, have you ever tried the Bible? I was like, what? I was like... So he kind of stopped me in my tracks. I was like, why on earth would I listen to the Bible, or like read the Bible for self-development? I was like, are you mad? And he was like, just try it. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, he's done pretty well up till now. Like, he's been amazing up till now. And I had a Bible, because I would have always said I was a Christian, but I literally wasn't a practicing Christian, and I thought God like kind of sat up there on a fluffy cloud and had nothing to do with us, just let us get on with it. So I opened the Bible up and I read this one verse, and it was about it's Matthew chapter 7 verse 13 to 14, and it's about many people are going to go on a journey in life, and they're going to pick the wide path, they're going to pick the wide gate, the easy option, you know, kind of meander through life. And then some people are going to pick the narrow gate and the hard path, and they're going to lead, like, that leads to like true life. And for me, like, what, you know, I've just explained about everything, for me it's like a smack in the face. It was so weird. It was like, there it is, like,
wow.
There's me saying, like, I look at people and I don't understand why people just sit in front of the TV and they don't try and push themselves and change themselves, and it's because it's the easy path.
That's the wide gate.
Yeah.
According to, yeah.
Yeah, and then when I look at like the path that I want to go on, it's the narrow gate. And it just really spoke to me in that moment that every single thing I'd gone through up until then was for a reason, and it was because I need to talk about it and help people about mindset and stuff. It was just a really weird moment. And then again, that was it. It was a moment where I just ran with it, and then I just became obsessed with the Christianity stuff.
And how have at what point did you start to build your social media following? Because you've now got, I don't have the numbers on me, it would be really useful to have written those down, but you've got a really good social media following, and not just on Facebook, not just on Instagram, but YouTube. You've got your own podcast as well.
Instagram's 21,000, Facebook's 18,000, YouTube's 18,000, Snapchat I don't use as much, but that is, I think that's like 3,000 or something. I'm not such a fan of that anymore. And then the podcast just grow. It's a newbie, the podcast, but that's growing. So I started growing it. It really grew quite slowly and organically, because the one thing Theo and I were really passionate about is not about the numbers, and I didn't want to just get loads of numbers. I wanted to build a relationship with my followers, and that's something I was really passionate about. I didn't want to treat them like a thumb on a screen or another person. Like, behind that is an actual human being. So I really wanted to connect to that person. And the problem is when people grow too quickly, they can't. Yeah. So, for example, I get messages off people, I get private messages, and I was really passionate about replying to each one. So I took the time to reply to each one. And, you know, when it was small, it was easy. But as it grew and grew and grew, I was still really passionate about that. So I'm glad that it didn't grow quickly. Otherwise, I think I wouldn't have been able to cope with that. But there's never been a time when my social media has shot up. It's gradually built.
But also doing it that way means that you're saying you're passionate about responding. But actually on the way here, I was listening to this podcast with Amy Porterfield and Rachel Hollis. Yeah. And she's got, would have been really useful to write down numbers, really big following. But she was saying she built it one person at a time.
Yeah.
And now everything she does, she knows exactly who she's speaking to because she has built that, she knows those people.
Yeah.
So, you know, with you, you're saying it hasn't shot up, but you know each of your, well, maybe not each of your people, but you know your audience because you've been speaking with them, to them, helping them.
Yeah.
And helping them grow.
So important.
Really cool. And did you, when you started building it, did you go more down the kind of horse and training route, or did you really start to build it more when you moved into the mindset aspect of what you're doing?
Yeah, I was really adamant that I didn't want it to be another horsey thing. I actually didn't know when I first started that there were other horse vloggers.
Okay.
I didn't look at any of them. I think I'd watched one, she was a beauty vlogger. I'd watched her and I was like, this is pretty cool, like I'd like to do that. And then I watched Casey Neistat, which is one of the like top vloggers. And I didn't want to look at any of the horse thing because I've always been, it's really weird, I've always been like, I don't like being described as a horsey person, like, oh, she's just a horsey person, because there's so many more aspects to me as a whole. And I really wanted that to bring to my social media, because I remember I used to feel quite embarrassed and made to feel embarrassed of like, oh yes, I'm a horse rider, but I also like, say, R&B and hip hop. Like, you're not allowed to do that. You have to dress a certain way, you have to wear this certain things. And I hated that, and I really wanted to break that stereotype through my social media. Like, yes, I ride horses, that is one aspect of my life, and I literally love them, don't get me wrong, but also I do like to do other things.
Yeah, completely. And how have you found your following responding to the religious aspects? I think that's really interesting because I think religion is one of those things that people don't talk about, isn't it?
It's so hard. It's
religion and politics.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
but it's actually, from what you've said and what I know of you, you don't use it in a kind of preachy way.
No.
It's been a real education for you, and you've taken so much from it.
And I never wanted to put on social media for people thinking that I'm going, you know, you have to do this. That's not what it was about. It was like, I just feel so passionately about how much it's helped me.
Sure.
And I think people think of religion as being like rules, regulations, but it's just not. And I think what's really misunderstood about Christianity is you don't have to fit into a box to be a Christian. So it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. Like, it doesn't matter, you know, who you are, what you've done, like how much you've messed up. Like, God doesn't care. Like, he just wants a relationship with you, and that's all it is like, you don't have to be something special to be a Christian. You literally just have to have a relationship with God and be like, I'm here, like, and he accepts you for whatever you are. And I find that just so refreshing and incredible. And I think the sad thing is a lot of people don't think that. And I think as well, they think it's boring and, like I said, rules and regulations, but it's not. It's to help you. So those like rules are, I just did the finger thing, by the way, for the podcast.
The air
What's
bunnies.
that called?
It's not called
air
that.
bunnies.
That's what I saw an episode
The air bunnies.
Modern Family, and now that's what I call it. So, inverted commas.
Love that. Yeah, but it's massively changed my life. But I remember when I first put out on social media, they didn't put it on social media, but I heard from a friend that a lot of people had sort of said it's not going to sell, it's going to ruin her brand. And I find that really hard because it's me, it's what makes me, so why should I shy away from it?
No, and I think you're absolutely right, but I think as well the thing with religion and Christianity is that we go to, you know, Church of England schools, and that means that we sit there and we have assemblies,
so different,
and we're read at, and you don't ask questions. It's that, and I think that's what people think. Absolutely, but I think when people think of religion, as you were saying about like rules, regulations, you've had this sort of vision of when you're at school, sat in assembly, having someone
so true.
speak.
And a lot of my younger followers message me like, "You're the coolest Christian I know," and I'm like, I find that so funny because if you look at the American culture, they're awesome. Like,
it's different.
They're so cool. Like, there's a lot of American pastors I listen to. And they're walking around in like Nike Airs, like dressed amazingly, like they're rapping, they're wicked. And I'm like, if people could see this and know that it's not about sitting in a pew and you have to be quiet. Like, I went to a Christian festival last year and it was for 20 to 30-year-olds. And I think that's one of the coolest things I've ever seen is that everyone was so diverse.
Okay.
And we all had these amazing like gifts and talents. We'd all come from different backgrounds, but we all came together and we all had this like common denominator, like we love God. And no one was embarrassed about it. No one was embarrassed to be like, yes, I love Jesus. Because nowadays it is sometimes like you can feel like embarrassed.
Yeah, I completely.
People sometimes think you're a bit insane. But I remember they had the open mic night, and this girl got up, and she was like African American. She was the coolest thing I've ever seen. And she did this spoken word. She did this rap. And she dropped this one like line, and everyone was like, "Bah!" And it was like being at like some Drake concert. And I was like, wow, this is insane. Like, it's just not about, like you said, sitting in a pew.
And that's not what people see.
Quiet.
People see the pew sitting.
Yeah.
Not the way you can connect.
Yeah. And it's such a loving community. Like, you don't get anyone going around going, oh, do you see what she's wearing? Or like, oh, this, or oh, I'm not sure what she's doing. It's like everybody loves each other, because that's what, Jesus taught us to do, is love everybody. And everybody loves diversity, and we all just love each other for who we are. And it's just really cool. Like nowadays, especially with what goes on social media, it's so refreshing. Like my church is so, like, you walk in there and you're like, you're home, and I can't explain it. There's this like peaceful feeling. And my church is an older community, so I'd understand some people struggle with it, but it's like I always say it's like having 22 grandparents.
Wow. Okay.
Like, so kind, so caring. They want to hear about your day. They want to encourage you. If you're struggling with something, they'll be straight in there, like, helping you and praying for you.
That's so lovely.
And they do it about everyone. I mean, like, literally everyone. And I've started a Bible study group in our hometown for people my age, because I was the only person in Ledbury my age, Christian, and I found that, like, scary. So we started praying about it, because I was like, oh, I want to have something. And the week later, a girl walked in who was my age, and we're best friends now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is mad. And she just moved here to do a teaching course. And it was weird. We are like soulmate best friends. I can't even explain it. It's just, that's a whole nother story. Like, that's
insane.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
And then we've started this like youth kind of people our age, like Bible study, and it's just so encouraging. Like I said, we're all from different backgrounds. We all do different things.
It's really lovely.
All from different communities, all from different cultures, all from different like financial backgrounds, but we all just come together and we're just all like best friends.
So obviously you do all of that as an aside, not an aside, it's very much part of what you do, but you get to sort of filter the lessons out through your social to people who are following you because they love dressage, love horses, are horsey. And I think as well, when we were chatting before the podcast, we were talking about how someone had given you quite a hard time, but rather than you thinking, aren't they horrible, evil people, you turned it around and thought, they must be quite unhappy with something.
Yeah.
And actually, just a little switch like that, flipping it round, can change the way you see things, rather than you taking it personally and go, they must be having a really horrible time. I feel really sorry for them. Yeah. And spreading more of that has got to be a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think what a lot of people do is they lack the understanding of why, like, so they lack the understanding of psychology and why humans do certain things. It's all actually very, when you listen to it, it makes it a lot easier to understand why someone has come at you in a nasty way. So there's actually a lady, she's done a TED talk, and it was a podcast I was listening to called Marissa Peer, and she explains about why people criticize each other. So say someone criticized you about your weight, they're like, you're fat. It's actually because they've got an insecurity about their weight. If they were secure in themselves, they wouldn't need to attack you about you. It's because they feel insecure, they're pushing it onto you. Okay. Which actually makes sense, because things I'm insecure about, I look at other people and I'd go, ooh,
I see what you mean.
It's a hard thing to kind of say about yourself, but the things like that I have been insecure about in the past is definitely things that I see in other people. And then once you start understanding that, you don't, like, say someone comes at me and they're like, well, I think, you're rubbish at this or you're rubbish at that. I'm like, okay, like, I know, like, science has proved and like psychology has proven that that's not my problem. You're reflecting your issues onto me. And also, I always look at it like everyone's allowed their opinion. Yeah. At the end of the day.
I think on social media, some people shouldn't maybe be voicing that.
Yeah, but
quite the way they do.
The best way someone's described it to me is everybody is doing their best in life, whatever they're doing. So they're doing their best in life for where they're at, or their maturity level, or their, you know, where they're at. Like, nobody sets out to be a bad person.
No, that's a fair point.
Like, whoever they are, whatever they've done, and then, like, to extremes of, like, really bad things. Nobody set out to be a nasty person. Like, certain things have happened, and especially when you say about people, like, why don't they just pull themselves together? They can't.
That's
at
the
that
least
moment.
helpful thing, though. Someone who's got anxiety or depression, having the pull yourself together line.
Yeah, it's just
It's
where
awful.
they're at. So, like, I always look at it as everybody is trying their best. Because I've had to be really careful with the mindset stuff, and I've been like it with my mum. Like I said, I'm one of these people who's like, I won't watch, like, mainstream TV. I'll read a book. Like, I'm all about studying, learning, growing, self-development. I have to be very careful I don't judge people who aren't like that, and be like, it's all out there. Like, why are you not doing this? And I've had to be really graceful with other people. Like I was saying with that group I've got on a Wednesday, be really graceful to people about actually they are doing their best.
And I suppose everyone's got different pressures, different things that
Yeah,
they need
exactly.
from life. So, you know, we were saying about, you know, watching the soaps. It might be just a kind of release that someone needs just to give their brain,
Exactly.
you know, depending on their
Like,
day.
who am I to sit there and judge them, because I haven't walked a mile in their shoes.
No.
So it sounds cliche, but
No, it's a really good way of looking at it, actually. It's spinning things around a bit and looking at it from a completely opposite viewpoint, and then seeing how you feel after that, really, isn't it?
yeah, definitely.
That's really cool.
If you have listened to part 1 of the podcast and you enjoyed it, don't forget to come back in 2 weeks' time. And I'm hoping you'll come back next week as well. But the second part is in 2 weeks' time, which will be really good as well. In the meantime, you can find out more about Olivia at oliviatowersdressage.com. She's also on Facebook, where she's Olivia Towers Dressage. She's on Instagram as Towers432, and she's also on YouTube. So go and check her out, and you can catch it with part 2 in 2 weeks' time.